Imagine a town where time stopped, not gradually, but in a single, fiery afternoon. A place where rusted cars from the 1940s still sit on the streets, where sewing machines are melted into windowsills, and where the silence is heavier than any sound. This isn't a movie set. This is Aurido-sur-Glane, a real ghost town in the heart of France, a place the French government has forbidden from ever being rebuilt. Why? Because what happened here must never, ever be forgotten. Today, we're exploring the chilling story of Oradour-sur-Glane, France's martyr village. It's a story of unimaginable cruelty, but also one of powerful remembrance. To understand why this town remains a ruin, we have to go back to one of the darkest days of World War II. The date is June 10th, 1944. Just 4 days earlier, Allied forces had stormed the beaches of Normandy in the D-Day landings. The tide of the war was beginning to turn, and the sense of hope was spreading across occupied France. But for the German army, this was a moment of desperation. The elite SS Panzer Division, known as Das Reich, was moving north through France to reinforce German defenses in Normandy. Along the way, they were leaving a trail of terror, conducting brutal reprisals against the French resistance and anyone suspected of helping them. On that fateful Saturday, their path led them to the quiet, peaceful village of Oradour. Life in Oradour was ordinary. It was a typical rural town where everyone knew each other. Children played in the streets, and the biggest event of the day might be the arrival of the tram. It was a place that felt 1,000,000 miles away from the front lines. But on June 10th, the war came to them in the most horrific way imaginable. Around 2 in the afternoon, SS soldiers surrounded the village, blocking all exits. They ordered everyone from the youngest infant to the oldest resident to gather in the central market square, supposedly for an identity check. Panic and confusion spread, but no one could have predicted the true purpose of this assembly. Once everyone was gathered, the commander announced the separation. All the men were to be taken to separate locations, while the women and children would be held in the village church. The men were divided into 6 groups and led away to different barns and garages around the village. Inside these buildings, the soldiers had already set up machine guns. They weren't there for an interrogation. In a coordinated act of mass murder, the SS opened fire. They aimed low, shooting the men in their legs to ensure no one could escape the inferno that was to follow. As the men lay wounded and dying, the soldiers piled straw and firewood over them and set the buildings ablaze. Not a single man from these groups was meant to survive. Meanwhile, over 450 women and children were packed tightly inside the village church. They huddled together, listening to the sounds of gunfire outside, praying and trying to comfort the terrified children. For a while, there was just waiting. Then, the soldiers placed a large incendiary device inside the church. The explosion filled the sacred space with thick, suffocating smoke and flames. Panic erupted. As women and children broke windows and tried to scramble out, they were met with a hail of machine gun fire. Anyone who attempted to flee the burning church was systematically gunned down. In the space of just a few hours, Oradour-sur-Glane was wiped off the map. 643 people were murdered. This included 247 children and 205 women. The entire village was then looted and torched, building by building, until only charred stone skeletons remained. Of the hundreds of people in the church, only one person survived. A woman named Marguerite Ruffanche managed to leap from a rear window, hidden by the smoke. Though shot and wounded, she crawled to a nearby garden and hid until the next day, the sole witness to the horror inside the church. In total, only a handful of people survived the massacre, mostly those who managed to hide before the roundup or the few men who miraculously escaped the burning barns. But why Orador? Why this specific, peaceful village? To this day, the exact reason is debated. One theory is that it was a case of mistaken identity. The SS may have confused Orador-sur-Glane with a nearby town Orador-sur-Veillos, which was known to have stronger links to the resistance. However, many historians believe the choice was deliberate and symbolic. The massacre wasn't just a reprisal. It was an act of pure terror, designed to send a chilling message to the French population. Do not support the resistance. Do not help the Allies. It was meant to break their spirit through sheer brutality. After the war, when the scale of the atrocities became clear, France was faced with a question: what to do with the ruins of Orador? Should they clear the rubble and rebuild, trying to erase the painful memory? The answer came from the then leader of France, General Charles de Gaulle. He declared that Orador-sur-Glane must never be rebuilt. It was to be preserved, left exactly as the perpetrators had left it on that day in June 1944. The ruins were to become a permanent, open-air memorial, silent testament to the victims, and a stark warning to future generations about the depths of human cruelty. And so, Orador became what it is today. A ghost town frozen in chimney. When you walk through its silent streets, the past feels terrifyingly present. You see the doctor's car, a Peugeot 202, still parked where he left it, now a skeletal, rusted frame. You can peer into the blackened shells of homes and shops, seeing the remnants of everyday life, a bicycle leaning against a wall, a sewing machine, pots and pans. Signs still hang above doorways. Boucherie for the butcher, boulangerie for the baker. And then there is the church. Its stone walls still stand, but the roof is gone, and the melted bell lies on the floor, a symbol of the silenced community. The most heart-wrenching sight is a child's prom, twisted and burnt, lying near the altar. The French government built a new village of Orador-sur-Glane right next to the ruins, allowing life to continue nearby. But the original village, the village martyr, remains untouched. It's a national monument. Visitors walk through in near total silence, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken grief. It's often described as an eerie or haunting experience, but it's more than that. It's a profound and deeply moving lesson in history that no book or film could ever replicate. A sign at the entrance to the ruins simply says, Salvian Stoy, remember. Orador-sur-Glane is not cursed by supernatural ghosts. It is haunted by the memory of real people, of lives cut short with brutal finality. It stands as a powerful, permanent scar on the landscape of France, a place that was sacrificed so that we would never forget the price of hatred and the importance of peace. Its existence ensures that the story of its 643 victims is never silenced. Thank you for joining us on this solemn journey into the past. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that delves into the forgotten corners of history. Remember,